No motivation to get out of bed? Use Marcus Aurelius' philosophy to change that. Why does the bed feel like a safe haven and the world outside like a threat? Why is it so easy to hit snooze and so hard to face the day? You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're just exhausted by a world that constantly demands more and rewards less. A world that celebrates productivity while offering no purpose. That drowns you in information, but starves you of meaning. And in that space between exhaustion and obligation, you hesitate, you pause, you stay in bed. But what if I told you that one of the most powerful men in history, a Roman emperor, a warrior, a philosopher, faced mornings just like yours? And not only did he survive them, he mastered them. This video is not a morning routine. It's not another wake up at 5 a.m. productivity cliche. This is a conversation between you and Marcus Aurelius. Through his writings, we'll explore the inner architecture of a Stoic morning. A mindset forged not by motivation, but by clarity. Not by hype, but by reason. A way of thinking that doesn't ask, do I feel like it today? But rather, what would a better version of me do now? In the next few minutes, you'll uncover the Stoic secrets to getting out of bed when your mind begs you to stay. You'll understand why motivation is unreliable and what to build in its place. You'll learn 3 powerful, ancient practices that turn hesitation into motion, dread into discipline. But more than that, you'll see that getting out of bed isn't just physical. It's spiritual, existential, philosophical. Every morning is a new vote, not for productivity, but for life, for meaning, for becoming. This is not about mornings. This is about the first battle of the day and the moment you choose not to surrender. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll leave with more than inspiration. You'll leave with tools. A Stoic system to transform not just how you wake up, but why. Because no matter how dark the night was, the morning always asks you one question. Will you rise? Diagnosing the lack of motivation. Let's begin where most people stop, with the silence after the alarm goes off. That fragile moment where time freezes, your mind races, and your body refuses to move. Why? Why is it so difficult to perform such a simple act, to get up? The problem isn't the alarm. It's the weight behind it. You're carrying emotional fatigue that no amount of sleep can fix. Mental clutter from overstimulation, digital bombardment, and social comparison. You wake up already behind, already overwhelmed, already disappointed, not in the world, but in yourself. We often mistake this paralysis for laziness. But this isn't laziness. It's a lack of meaning. And without meaning, effort feels pointless. This is the invisible enemy, not fatigue, but futility. The modern mind is trapped in a storm of noise. Notifications, deadlines, messages, expectations, none of which are aligned with who you truly want to be. So when morning comes, there's a part of you that resists, not because it hates the day, but because it sees no reason to live it. Marcus Aurelius understood this internal war. He didn't have TikTok or endless emails, but he had something worse. The weight of an empire on his back, constant warfare, betrayal from his own friends, and the knowledge that he would one day lose everything he loved. Yet even then, he wrote to himself, at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work. As a human being, this wasn't motivational fluff. It was a reminder of identity. He wasn't telling himself to get up for the empire, or the army, or even for Rome. He was reminding himself, I am a man of action, and I rise because it is in my nature to act. What makes us fail to rise isn't weakness. It's disconnection from who we really are. The modern crisis of motivation is a crisis of identity. If you believe you are a person who tries to wake up early, you'll negotiate. But if you decide you are a person who confronts life head-on, whether the sun is out or not, there is no decision. You simply act. This is not about fixing your schedule. It's about fixing your internal narrative. The story you tell yourself about who you are the moment your eyes open. This is where Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes fuel. It gives you the language to rewrite that story, not in fantasy, but in brutal, liberating reality. Diagnosing the lack of motivation. Let's begin where most people stop, with the silence after the alarm goes off. That fragile moment where time freezes, your mind races, and your body refuses to move. Why? Why is it so difficult to perform such a simple act, to get up? The problem isn't the alarm. It's the weight behind it. You're carrying emotional fatigue that no amount of sleep can fix. Mental clutter from overstimulation, digital bombardment, and social comparison. You wake up already behind, already overwhelmed, already disappointed, not in the world, but in yourself. We often mistake this paralysis for laziness, but this isn't laziness. It's a lack of meaning, and without meaning, effort feels pointless. This is the invisible enemy, not fatigue, but futility. The modern mind is trapped in a storm of noise. Notifications, deadlines, messages, expectations, none of which are aligned with who you truly want to be. So when morning comes, there's a part of you that resists, not because it hates the day, but because it sees no reason to live it. Marcus Aurelius understood this internal war. He didn't have TikTok or endless emails, but he had something worse. The weight of an empire on his back, constant warfare, betrayal from his own friends, and the knowledge that he would one day lose everything he loved. Yet even then, he wrote to himself. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work. As a human being, this wasn't motivational fluff. It was a reminder of identity. He wasn't telling himself to get up for the empire, or the army, or even for Rome. He was reminding himself, I am a man of action, and I rise because it is in my nature to act. What makes us fail to rise isn't weakness. It's disconnection from who we really are. The modern crisis of motivation is a crisis of identity. If you believe you are a person who tries to wake up early, you'll negotiate. But if you decide you are a person who confronts life head-on, whether the sun is out or not, there is no decision. You simply act. This is not about fixing your schedule. It's about fixing your internal narrative. The story you tell yourself about who you are the moment your eyes open. This is where Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes fuel. It gives you the language to rewrite that story, not in fantasy, but in brutal, liberating reality. If you've been waking up and feeling like the world is a burden, that's not weakness. That's a signal. And it's time to listen to it, not with guilt, but with awareness. So now that we've looked at why motivation fails us, the question becomes, what replaces it? And what did Marcus Aurelius do? Not to feel better, but to become better. Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism in practice. You don't overcome inertia with energy. You overcome it with clarity. When Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations, he wasn't trying to publish a book. He was writing private notes to himself to prepare his mind for another day of battle, betrayal, and uncertainty. His words were armor, not against the world, but against himself. He knew that the enemy wasn't out there. It was inside, the whisper that said, stay in bed, delay your duty, let someone else carry the weight today. And so, each morning, he fought back, not with motivational speeches, but with rational reflection. He began by reminding himself of the truth, that each day would be full of challenges, interruptions, and ungrateful people. Not as a complaint, but as preparation. This was the Stoic technique called premeditatio malorum, the mental rehearsal of what could go wrong, so nothing would surprise him when it did. Modern minds fear discomfort. Stoic minds expect it. Aurelius didn't hope for an easy morning. He expected resistance and trained to face it with composure. He called himself to his role like a soldier reports for duty. "Are you made for pleasure?" he would ask, "or for action, endurance, and effort?" This is the first lesson. Don't seek motivation. Seek identity. If you believe you're someone who only functions when inspired, your life will stall every time the inspiration fades. But if you believe you are a person of discipline, your feelings no longer get a vote. He also practiced what we now call the dichotomy of control. He asked, "What is mine to command, and what must I release?" The weather, the economy, the mood of others, these were beyond his reach. But his actions? His response to the morning? That was always his choice. And that's still your choice. You can't control how tired you feel. You can't control what's on your calendar. But you can control what happens in the first 5 minutes after waking up. Whether you fall back into your pillow or rise with intention. Aurelius would wake up and remind himself, "You were made to do this." Not later. Now. He didn't wait to feel ready. He acted to become ready. You don't need a new app or a new alarm clock. You need a new philosophy. One that tells you the obstacle isn't blocking your path. It is the path. And the resistance you feel to getting out of bed, that is your first victory of the day, if you choose to face it. Now, how do we take these Stoic truths and turn them into habits? In the next chapter, we'll look at 3 simple practices drawn from ancient Stoicism that you can apply starting tomorrow morning to stop negotiating with your alarm and start rising with conviction. 3 Stoic practices to transform your morning. You don't need more hours in the day. You need more ownership of the first 5 minutes. Every morning is a battle, not against time, but against hesitation. And if you wait for motivation, you've already surrendered. What you need is structure, not rigid, robotic routine, but conscious, intentional steps that rewire the way you begin. Here are 3 practices, grounded in the Stoic tradition, that reframe your mornings from avoidance to action. The first practice begins before you even open your eyes. Before the light hits your face, take 10 seconds to perform a Stoic check-in. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself daily, "Today, I will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Why? So he wouldn't be caught off guard when they showed up. You do the same, but not just with people, with yourself. Say internally, "Today, I will feel tired. I will want to delay. I will doubt my strength. And I will rise anyway." This preemptive strike weakens the power of excuses. It removes the illusion that a good day begins with good feelings. Instead, it begins with good thinking. The second practice happens the moment you sit up. You engage the body to awaken the will. Get up slowly, deliberately. Place both feet flat on the floor. Take a breath, not to relax, but to signal intention. Then, say aloud or internally, "This is my nature, to rise, to act, to engage the day." This isn't affirmations. It's alignment. You're not tricking your brain. You're reminding it who you are. Then move, drink water, stretch, open a window. Feel the cold. Stoics didn't seek comfort. They used discomfort to sharpen awareness. Don't reach for your phone. Reach for presence. The world can wait. Your identity cannot. The third practice arrives after the morning is underway. As you cross the first threshold of the day, showered, dressed, maybe already at your first task, stop. Take 60 seconds and perform a Stoic checkpoint. Ask yourself 3 questions. What did I control well this morning? Where did I surrender to impulse? What principle will I hold for the next hour? These are not performance metrics. They're reality checks. They remind you that the Stoic path is not about perfection. It's about progress, about returning again and again to the inner clarity that made Marcus Aurelius rise not as an emperor, but as a man committed to mastery over his own mind. None of these practices require equipment. No apps, no gimmicks, just intention. And here's a challenge. For the next 3 mornings, don't change your schedule. Don't try to be perfect. Just practice these 3 steps. Preempt the excuses. Engage your body and mind. Reflect mid-morning with clarity. And then watch what begins to shift, not just in your energy, but in your identity. Because the morning isn't just a time of day. It's a test. And every test has a purpose, to reveal who you really are. Overcoming internal crises with ancient wisdom. There are mornings when the body isn't just tired, it's paralyzed. When the weight on your chest isn't from sleep, but from sorrow. The alarm sounds, and it feels like a distant voice in a world you no longer belong to. These are not normal mornings. These are battlefields. Grief, anxiety, regret, shame. They don't wait for nightfall. They greet you at dawn. And in those moments, the idea of rising isn't just difficult. It feels impossible. This is where philosophy either becomes useful or disappears. Marcus Aurelius faced the death of children, the betrayal of allies, a collapsing empire, and his own deteriorating health. And yet, he wrote not about escaping suffering, but facing it without losing himself. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not motivational fluff. It's a manual for surviving the storm within. When you wake up in the midst of a crisis, a loss, a failure, a fear, you must understand. Your thoughts will not save you unless you direct them. Left unattended, they become predators. But shaped with clarity, they become protection. The Stoics developed a tool for this. A simple, brutal, beautiful practice called visualization of loss. Each morning, they would imagine what they might lose: their home, their loved ones, their position. Not to become numb, but to become awake. Why? Because pain is less terrifying when it's no longer a stranger. When you've met it in your mind, you can walk beside it in your life. This isn't about expecting tragedy. It's about preparing your soul for reality, so it doesn't collapse the moment life becomes heavier than planned. So when you wake up on a hard morning, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What now?" Breathe, sit up, and say, "This pain is part of life, but it is not the end of mine." There is a way forward, not by ignoring your sorrow, but by walking through it with your head upright. The Stoic doesn't wait to feel strong. He acts in spite of weakness, knowing that each step forward is proof that he is not the prisoner of pain, but its processor. If the bed feels like a sanctuary from sadness, you must build something stronger, purpose. And you don't have to create it from scratch. You return to the path that held up emperors and sages before you. The path of reason, of acceptance, of focused motion. Because even on the worst days, the first choice is still the same. Will I rise? And on those mornings, rising doesn't mean smiling. It means refusing to retreat. In the next chapter, we'll connect everything. How practice becomes philosophy, and how your morning becomes your transformation. Integration and transformation. You've heard the voice that says stay. You felt the pull of delay. You faced the weight of fatigue, of doubt, of loss. And now, something is beginning to change. Not because the world has become lighter, but because your stance has become stronger. This is where it all begins to converge. You now understand that getting out of bed is not a task. It's a test, a declaration, a statement to yourself and the world. I am not driven by comfort. I am driven by character. The Stoic morning is not about productivity. It's about power, the quiet, steady power of a person who chooses clarity over chaos, discipline over drift, action over avoidance. Let's connect the path behind you. You diagnosed the real enemy, not sleep, but meaninglessness. You remembered the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, that we rise not because we want to, but because it is in our nature to serve, to act, to live in alignment with virtue. You practiced the ancient rituals, the preemptive reflection, the embodied awakening, the midday checkpoint, and you faced the hardest mornings, the ones heavy with grief or fear, with the eyes of a philosopher, not a victim. Now, imagine the difference after 30 days. You open your eyes and know exactly what to say to yourself. You breathe with intention. You rise without debate. You move with dignity. You review your choices, not with judgment, but with clarity. No perfection, just presence. You're not living a rigid routine. You're living a chosen rhythm, one that respects your humanity while refusing to let it decay into passivity. You've stopped chasing motivation. You've started embodying responsibility. And it all begins in that first moment, before words, before coffee, before the sun even fully rises. That moment where you choose to act is who you are becoming, not who you were. This is transformation, not because your morning changed, but because you did. From now on, when the alarm goes off, it's not a trigger for dread. It's a signal, a call to action, a whisper from the part of you that remembers who you are. And who you are is not tired, not stuck, not weak. Who you are is rising. Engaging conclusion and call to action. You woke up today. That alone is reason enough to rise. But now, you've learned that rising is not just a physical motion. It's a philosophical one. Every morning offers you two paths, the path of comfort or the path of clarity. Comfort whispers, stay a little longer. Clarity commands, stand for what matters. And what matters is not that you felt ready. It's that you remembered what you're made of. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask the world to be easier. He asked himself to be stronger. And now you have his tools, his logic, his discipline, his legacy. You have a Stoic morning, not because of what you feel, but because of what you choose. And if you've made it to this moment, you're not here by accident. You stayed because something inside you recognizes the truth that philosophy is not theory, it's action. And action begins right now. So here's your challenge. For the next 3 days, before you open your phone, before you scroll, before you escape into noise, practice the Stoic morning. Preempt the excuses with reflection. Engage the body with presence. Review your decisions with courage. And when that old voice returns, telling you to stay small, remind it, I rise because I was made for this. If this video has sparked something in you, comment below. I rise. Share it with someone you know is battling their mornings. Someone who's stuck in bed, not because they're weak, but because they've forgotten who they are. And in the next episode, we go deeper. We'll explore how to carry this Stoic energy into your work, your relationships, and your long days. So the same person who rises well, lives well. You don't need another motivational video. You need a code. And now, you have it. I'll see you in the next chapter. But until then, don't just wake up. Rise up.